Hello, everybody. I want to talk about habits today. I posted in the Creator Life Collective. Well, I was still getting used to that name, Creator Life Collective, in the community a couple times about habits. And then I accidentally posted something about habit stacking and development on my personal profile, which actually garnered interest from other people to talk about the process of developing habits and how we can approach um, habit development, but also habit stacking and habit building in a way that is more successful, a little more freeing, and not so full of the burden and expectation of if I get it, well, I don't, maybe not just so much burden and expectation, but this pattern that I see where, at the new year, we set up resolutions and somehow we're magically going to achieve some amazing goal and then it doesn't happen. And then we start feeling like a failure. We start having these internal messages of, never mind, I just can't do it. What's wrong with me? I'm self sabotaging, all the things that come up. Well, I've been trying to improve habits for a long time in a lot of areas of my life because I do have a lot of thoughts and my brain goes in a lot of different places. And it's been challenging to plan well. That's one of my mm, downsides, a difficulty, a struggle that I wrestle with is being able to plan things out so that I can stay on a productive and consistent schedule. And I even hate saying that, but it's something that I wrestled with even as a homeschool mom, and as I'm noticing and trying to put content out there, etc. I have ideas and ideals in my mind, and then when I have sit down to lay it out and try to give myself the tasks and the items that I want to accomplish, it's still in that idealized form. So I may put down on my calendar at this time each day, I'm going to do this activity. But I haven't been doing that activity regularly. And I've blocked out an hour. And suddenly I realize the next morning that I have XYZ to do. Sometimes XYZ means really important stuff that I just didn't take into account when I put that on my calendar. That I didn't have time to do other tasks that were actually more urgent, more important, more needed in the moment. And sometimes XYZ is actually ABC and M and O and Z and P and all over the place because it's squirrels, it's distractions. Sometimes XYZ is all the procrastination because something else is going on underneath that I don't even know that I can do it. Or if I do follow through on this task, this activity, this goal, it may not, it feels weird if I accomplish it. Sometimes that can keep us from actually doing good because we're used to not getting it done. It's more comfortable to not get it done. And our brains like to go with what we know. Breaking that pattern, shifting into something new for our brains, shifting into new patterns, doesn't just happen. There's several different factors at play. Now, I'm obviously no expert on habits or habit stacking or habit development or anything like that, but it was interesting to me that as I posted accidentally on my personal profile, that there was interest in other people wanting to know, how do you develop these habits? What is habit stacking? So for habit stacking, I don't know that I have the right answer, to be honest, because I know I've heard the term and it's probably like James Clear, Atomic Habits. Maybe it's something else, to be honest. I don't know. You can put it in the comments if you know where this comes from. And so I'm just going to state it the way I interpret it and the way I'm running with this idea of habit stacking. Because creating a new habit is this big thing, this big picture, to stack habits, I need a different vision than like this habit and this habit and this habit. It's like a bunch of big things. So the way I view habit stacking is I'm breaking it down into a tiny habit that builds with another tiny habit, another step, and another step. And over time, it builds so many different habits that it's just part of the way I live, part of my routine, like getting on a bicycle and just going. Because by that time, you just know what you're doing. When you first learn, you don't exactly know what you're doing, but getting back on it, that's the thing that people always say. It's just like riding a bicycle. You remember when the brain builds up that memory, then it remembers. And another benefit of doing this in pieces is that you have space to explore and decide if that's actually like the habits that are taking you towards a specific goal. Is that the goal you want? Do you need that goal a little bit sooner? So you need to up the pace here, but you're building habits for a different goal as well. And maybe you need to fine tune and pull it back for this one, or maybe you need to shift the goal. You learn things about yourself and you learn things about how the process is working that can be fine tuned. You build motivation and momentum with tiny increments along the way. I know some people say they are all or nothing, and that's not me. If that's you, if you are someone who says I'm all or nothing, it has to be the whole shebang. For example, exercise, working out, that's what everybody goes to in January generally. I'm going to lose some weight, I'm going to be more fit, etc. I'm going to eat healthier, and they change everything in their life. It's almost like it can be obsessive, or like they have to do it, and it involves so many pieces. If that works for you, great. I would venture to guess that for some people who do that, that they also experience burnout. Or even if they have a lot of success up front, over time, it they've put something in place that isn't sustainable, something that can't be maintained later. So I propose habit stacking in the sense that it's taking the big picture, breaking it down into smaller pieces that feel achievable and doable, and that your mindset can say, oh, well, all I'm doing is I'm going to do this thing for 5 minutes or this one step. And just by even thinking of it as that one piece versus the whole picture that gets you to your goal, I don't know, I feel relief. Like my tension goes down in my shoulders. I go, I can do that. Like working out for me. Some people are just, nope, I'm going to do it multiple times a week, and that's fine. Hi, children, hi, son. But for me, it's give me 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Let me do that several times. Let me build up the feeling inside that I get from accomplishing that. And then when I go for a walk for 10 minutes and I realize that was actually pretty easy. I can do this whenever I feel like I can't do a long walk or I can't do something that's a bigger activity. I can still do the 10 minutes. And as I'm processing that, I'm realizing one, I'm more motivated. I'm more likely to at least get the 10 minutes. And I'm not putting that added pressure or guilt on myself for not doing 30 minutes or not doing whatever the other goal was. I chose the smaller step, and incrementally, I was able to implement it more. So, for example, this week I put on the calendar writing, because I have some writing projects I want to work on. And I said, well, I'm just going to do it for an hour at this time and this time. Like the example I used before, I did not account for other things that really had to happen this week. And there's just been a lot of things that kind of bubbled up together, and I just did not have the energy to do it first thing in the morning. I want to, but it may have been too big of a goal too, to do that whole hour initially. I might have been more successful if I had said on a checklist 15 minutes to review writing goals and ideas, etc., which may have prompted me to do an hour anyway. But the way my whole brain and body interpret it is different. And I realized this morning that just because I put it on the calendar, this is where I've fallen short so many times. Put something on the calendar, but there's really no connection to it being top priority or it being part of what I am building. Like there's some deeper level of connection that I'm not, that I'm not connected with when I just put it on the calendar. Nope, this is what I'm going to do. I don't respond well to that. Some people do, I don't. And so I'm testing and trying different things. And this is another thing that I posted on so I went on the profile today. I'm going to read it. Let's see if I can read it. So I had some random thoughts about developing habits and working toward goals. I think I also posted this in the Creator Life Collective Facebook group. I know I'm doing this on LinkedIn too, so I wanted to post it there because it has to do with productivity and processes and habits and development, and that impacts a lot of us who are on LinkedIn. Okay, random thought about developing habits and working toward goals. It's common to schedule an activity you want to do, like I did with the writing, like a block time to work on something that moves you toward a goal, which is what I did. Then I didn't do it. And I think that's common that we might identify a goal that we want, we say we're going to do it, and then we don't do it. Or we do it for a couple of days and then we don't do it. When we don't, you assume you failed, you've messed up, you did something wrong, or you aren't able to do it. The pattern of thoughts turns into something like, I tried it, it didn't work, I can't do it. Or I tried it, I keep not doing it, I give up. It's not for me. What if you practice noticing what happened, what didn't, and why it didn't? What if you notice that? So I was kind of explaining that when I said why the writing thing didn't work for me. And I've noticed this happened many times. I put it on the calendar and I said, oh, I'm going to do this certain time. And no, I didn't. So I came up with 4 possibilities of why it didn't happen. I talked about some things, but I'm going to highlight the 4 that I put in this post. Number 1, the activity you wanted to do isn't actually as important or urgent as you thought. Choose something else. So in the parentheses, I put something that you could do with it, because our brains interpret these messages and it has meaning associated to it, which leads us to an action. And so what I'm doing is I'm sharing what could happen if we reflected on what happened and why it didn't happen in these different ways. And then an activity that we could do as an alternative to the shame and the blame and the condemnation that comes upon us when we don't do it, don't follow through, etc. So 1, the activity you wanted to do isn't as important or urgent as you thought. Choose something else. 2, the activity is in some way too big, which leads to overwhelm and procrastination. Break it down. Too big. No, let's just find a step. If you can get to 4 or 5 steps, great, but start with a step. 3, underlying blocks need to be addressed. Fears, doubts, some needs that haven't been met, a lack of support, past experiences. They could be blocking your ability to take that step, to do the activity. So what do? Get support. Coaching, therapy, counseling, self-reflection. Bring that reflection to God. Use Unleash Sheets, my tool, Unleash Heart and Soul Care Sheets, to explore what is underneath it. What is robbing me of being able to move forward? 4, different steps are needed to help you move toward the action you actually want. So maybe you put this step in place, but really to move forward, it needed to be a different step, because you might have jumped the gun and said, oh, I'm going to do this step, when actually you need to go back and do a different step. Redefine the activity that you need to do, the different activity, as your new goal. That's the new thing that you're going to test, try out, and see what happens. This is not like when it's the mindset thing that I'm thinking of when we set out with an intention to reach a habit or develop a habit or reach a goal, with this pressure and this expectation inside of us that it is going to be met. It has to be met. It must be met. It also comes with this perspective that it's going to be met that way and that it's going to look a certain way. When we hold it a little looser, we could say, oh, we can get curious. And then we say, oh, well, maybe that just didn't work. So maybe I need to reevaluate. Was it that it didn't work? Is there something else going on with me? Is there a different step I should take? What is actually going to help me get to where I want to go? And is this even where I want to go? As I was reflecting on this and then sharing accidentally on the profile page, there was a suggestion too about having a group. And then this same topic came up in the growth community and Cultivate Together in our group call today. And I think there's a lot of people wrestling with how do I change some things up that I want to change, whether it's for me personally or for a professional thing, for a job, for whatever. How do I build these habits, routines, things that are easy? We just fall into doing because now we've done it so regularly that it's easy to do. We don't even have to think about it anymore. I think that we could do that in a group or a challenge or a workshop or something. And I wanted to put this out there on video to see what do you want to do this? Is this something that you're interested in? What would it look like to be engaged in this kind of activity? Um, do you just want the support in a group? Would you find it helpful to have guidance along the way to break some things down, to ask questions that cause you to self-reflect and evaluate things that you just may not notice? You may be moving along. This is probably a poor example, but it's like you accidentally go out to the restroom and you get toilet paper hanging from you, or stuck on your shoe, or you get something in your teeth and you just don't know that it's there. You absolutely don't want it there. It's embarrassing to know that it's there, but wouldn't you rather know so that you could do something different, so that you could change it up? I would. I remember when I told a friend one time, I was like, hey, you got a little broccoli left in your teeth. She's like, oh my gosh, you are the best friend. Because she really appreciated the honesty. So she wasn't walking around with broccoli in her teeth the whole evening. Some kind of green. It was, I don't know what it was. But anyway, I'd like to hear from you and see if this is something that you'd be interested in. We could do, like a short challenge, or if I was pretty heavily involved, there would be a fee. So I want to make something that's reasonable, but also prepares you to develop the habits you want today for tomorrow, for the goals that you have, before you even hit the new year, before you even get to a place of these are my New Year's resolutions, which don't do resolutions. Goals are good. Let's decide how we're going to build the habits, develop those, stack those bit by bit so that they build upon each other. Now, I've built some habit stacking in my life with preparing my coffee the night before. I want to have a fresh pot of coffee in the morning. Sometimes I miss a step, and my coffee experience in the morning is not what I wanted it to be. In any case, I have found it very helpful to prep the coffee pot the night before, every night. Occasionally I don't do it, but it has now become a habit. Now that I've done that every night, I could add some other routines if I wanted to, which could look like making sure there's no dishes left on the counter. Not my forte, but I could add that to my routine too. Once I have the coffee pot routine in, I can add to it, and my mindset going in is bonus, bonus if I get a little bit done. Okay, great. Then I got a little more done. If I don't, I'm good, because the most important thing to me right now is that coffee pot being ready in the morning, because it makes it so nice and easy to wake up, push the button, and carry on. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this video up. I heard my husband getting home, so I don't have the doors closed or anything, but please do let me know if something like this would be of interest to you. If the topics I said are interesting or helpful, go ahead and hit the like button. Let me know in the comments and share this with others, because I have a feeling I'm not alone. I think there's actually a lot like me and like you out there who want to develop these habits, and we could use a little more structure and support along the way. Let me know. Take care. Bye-bye.